Hi, it's Bentley's mom again. We are going to do chapter 10, lesson 4, the homework. We're going to do from the guided practice, we're going to do problems 1 and 2, and the independent 1, 4, and 5. And in my packet, I didn't get the last page, 778, so I don't know if you got it as well, but we'll do what we have right here. This is good practice for a surface area of a triangular prism. So for number 1, okay, again, for all triangular prisms, you have a triangle on each end, and then you have a rectangle, rectangle, and rectangle. So for number 1, we're going to have, this is what the triangle looks like. We're going to have 2 triangles, and then we're going to have rectangle, rectangle, rectangle. So for the first one, we're going to have 1/2 base times height. This is the area of a triangle. So it's going to be 1/2 times 5 times 4.3. Okay, and you can put that in your calculator. 0.5 times 5 times 4.3, and we get 10.75. Okay, and you can either multiply that by 2, or for this triangle, I'm just going to add another one right here. So I don't accidentally forget to do that, or I don't count it twice, or too many times. If I join them together. So just be careful if you multiply it by 2, make sure that you know that you've got the 2 triangles in there. Okay, the first rectangle, we have, this is an equilateral triangle. All sides are 5 meters. So because of that, all 3 of these are going to be the same. That's not always the case. Especially be sure when it's a scalene triangle, because all 3 sides are different, which means you will get 3 different areas for the rectangles. So it's going to be base times height for the area of a rectangle. Okay, and we get 70, and there's 3 of those. Those are the same. Okay, and then we're going to take all of these areas of each surface, and we're going to add them together, and we get 231.5, and it's meters, so it's square meters. Okay, that's number 1. All right, now number 2. Okay, okay, we're going to have, the triangle looks like this. So we're going to have 2 triangles, again, and 3 rectangles. And I always draw them out like this so I don't forget. And this is true when you're finding surface area of any shape. You just take all of the sides like this, and you can either draw them out, or we did words with rectangular. We did like front and back, side and side. As long as you keep track of them, that's the best way to do it. And it does take a long time. So we're going to do 1/2 times the base times the height. And my copy's kind of, I can't read it very well. So I don't know if it says 4.8 or 48. So I'm just going to use 48 because I can't really see if it was a decimal or not. So if it was, you could just change it. But I'm going to use 48 and 4. So 1/2, and 14. 1/2 times 48 times 14 gives me 336. Okay, and then that's the area of this triangle. So the area of this triangle is also 336. Then let's do the top. So the top rectangle, which is the one kind of sloping down, like if it's a skateboard ramp, is going to be base times height, which is 50 times 36. And we get 1,800. Okay, and then we have the bottom. This kind of looks like a skateboard ramp to me, or like a bike jump. So if you look at the bottom, how much wood would we need to make this? It looks like it is 48 times 36, and we get 1728 when we multiply those. And notice I'm circling each shape when I have the area. And then the last one is the very back, and that's going to be 14 times 36. And if you notice, this number is always going to be the same. And this number will be the same if it's equilateral. 2 of them will be the same if it's isosceles. And if it's scalene, which means all sides are different, all of those will be different. So 14 times 36 gives me 504. Okay, and then I'm going to take all of these areas and add them together to get the total surface area. And I get 4,704, and it's going to be square inches. Okay, now turn the page. Now we're going to go on to the independent practice. I'm on page 777. Okay, Okay, so now I'm doing the independent. Let's do number 1. Okay, it looks like we have a triangle like this. Okay, so we're gonna have 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. Okay, and the triangle looks like, this is 12, the height, and the base is 51. Okay, now remember you have to use the 2 that meet at a 90-degree angle, and you can tell by this, those are perpendicular, that's what this little box means. So we're gonna do 1/2 times 12 times 51, and 1/2 of 12 is 6, and then 6 times 51 gives me 306. And these 2 triangles are gonna be the same, so this one's gonna be 306. And then the bottom, let's start with the bottom. I have, let's see, 5 times 51, which gives me 255. And then it kind of looks like there's a side and a side here. I'll call this one the left side. And you can call it whatever makes it easier for you to describe. And I'll call this the right side. But just as long as you make sure you get all the 3 different rectangles. So the left side looks like it's going to be 5. It's going to be our common measurement, 5 times 37, which gives us 185. Okay, and then the right side looks like 5 times 20, and that gives us 100. Then we're going to take all of these, again, 3 rectangles and the 2 triangles. We're going to add them together, and we get 1152, and it's going to be square yards like this. Okay, so your work should look something like that. Okay, now this is assuming I used a calculator for this, except for ones, 5 times 20. Hopefully you can do that one in your head. But there's still lots of work, even using a calculator. So using a calculator for the long multiplication doesn't mean don't show your work. You need to show all of this work, especially when you get to middle school. Right now, if you are not allowed to use a calculator, you would just have to write out 5 times 51 and do a long multiplication problem. Okay, number 2. On the independent practice, oh no, we're not doing number 2, we're doing number 4. Okay, Bentley picked these problems out for me to do. Okay, so we're going to have 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. Okay, so the first triangle, this is 10, and this is 12. Sorry, that's 10 and 12. So it's 1/2 times base times height. So 1/2 of 12 is 6. 6 times 10 is 60. Okay, and then this one's also going to be 60. Okay, and you don't have to do that twice. And then we have the bottom. Okay, and that's going to be 12 times 11. That gives us 132. And then we have the top, and that's going to give us 15.6 times 11, which is 171.6. And then the last one, so this is a scalene. The last one, the side, all 3 sides are different, but notice this 11 is the same, okay, for all of them, is 110. And then we're going to take all of these areas of the 2 triangles and the 3 rectangles, and we're going to add them together. And we get 533.6 square centimeters. Okay, and then again, I box my final answer. And you don't have to do that. It's really easy, especially when you get to harder math, when there's lots of work and it gets really complicated. I circle what I call my partial answers on the way, like the areas of each shape, and then my final answer, I put a box on it, and that'll really help you so your work doesn't get disorganized. Okay, so the next one, here's our triangle. This is 1.7, and they actually wrote 1 here and 1 here, but the full length of this is 2. Okay, so we have 1/2, you can use 0.5, okay, times the base, times the height, okay, and 1/2 of 2 is 1, and 1 times 1.7 is 1.7, okay, and then the second triangle is also going to be 1.7, okay, and then we have the 3 rectangles, and Here's the bottom. This one, if you look at it, it's actually 2, 2, and 2. That's an equilateral triangle, which means all of these are going to be the same. So the bottom's 2 times 3, okay, and the other ones are also 2 times 3 because it's an equilateral triangle. So you're going to have 6, 6, and 6. So again, you can either add all these together, or you can take this one and multiply it by 2 plus 6 times 3, which is 18. But we're going to add them all together. You'll get the same answer, and you get 21.4 square yards. But be careful, again, because they're not always equilateral triangles. These can be different. Okay? And that's number 5. And that's it. Thanks.